What is up, guys? This game is going to be a ZVP on Abyssal City, a former GSL map. And talking of GSLs, last night was insane. The games were so good in every series, especially the series between Lucira and Gumiho. Game 3 of that series ended up being like an hour and 30 minutes long. So if you guys have not seen those matches, please, I really recommend you guys go watch them because they were just so good. And getting into this game, in the left position on Abyssal City, it is LiquidRet spawning as the blue Zerg, and on the right side it is GetOutMyGame, a red Protoss. GetOutMyGame is a Grandmaster player on the EU server, while on the other side, LiquidRet, he is a professional Zerg player on Team Liquid. You know, Team Liquid has been recruiting a lot of Korean players and have kind of been outshining the foreign players. But I always root for Rhett. You know, he's one of my old school favorites. He was so good at Brood War, and I have some pretty high hopes for him going into HOTS. You know, I really do hope he makes a comeback. And let's talk about this ZVP matchup a little bit. You know, over the course of 2012, Zergs have kind of realized that the Infestor Broodlord Corruptor army is basically impossible to deal with as a Protoss unless they get a really good Vortex off with the Mothership. The only hope for the late game Protoss is to get that Vortex off onto a clump of Broodlords and get some Archons in there to do the Archon toilet trick, where when the Vortex wears off, all the units pop out, but they are all clumped up, so the splash damage from the Archons does do damage to all the units that were inside. So if you can get like five to eight Broodlords in there, that could be a really nice move for the Protoss, but it is really hard because, you know, the Zerg obviously isn't going to let your Mothership get that close, or they're not going to let their Broodlords be that clumped up before an engagement. So I would say Zerg is at an inherent advantage in the late game, but the Protoss, on the other hand, have some really sick timings that they can hit. You know, they have really nice 2-base all-ins, like the Immortal Sentry all-in, or maybe like Genius's Void Raid Gateway all-in, or even like 8-gate all-ins that Huck did this season on the GSL. If executed right, they can do some sick damage. There's also some 3-base timings, you know, right before the Broodlords get morphed in, which is the Colossus timing off 3-base. You know, if you can hit the Zerg in that transition between their lair and hive tech, you could do some really sick damage, you know, picking off the 4th, 3rd, maybe even getting the kill straight off. But we'll see what GetOutMyGame opts to do. Rhett, on the other hand, he's known for his affinity to drones. He loves his drones. He loves making a sick amount of drones. You know, he's really into his macro games, and you know, that's really where Red shines, and that's the strength of Zerg at the same time as well. Their ability to macro up and just go into the late game and have sick production and overwhelming their opponents is the way Zerg is meant to be played, and that's the way he plays it. You know, you see so many drones coming out already, and the Cybernetics core is on the way for the Zerg right now. Overlords are in the natural and going onto this ledge here to see what is going on in the base of the Protoss. The Protoss has to get out a Stalker or a Sentry to kind of ward away these Overlords and take them out before they can really put down any sort of real tech. You know, and with this kind of simulator timings, I do think it's going to be a Robo, and there it is. The Robo is down. We will see what kind of play he opts to go, though. The really standard thing to do for a Protoss now is to add 3 more gateways to go up to 4 gateways with a Robo off 2-base, and you can, you know, expand. You can put some pressure on with Warp Prisms if you really want to, although that is not too effective most of the time because, you know, Zergs are just so good at spotting Warp Prisms on their way. There used to be a time where putting in some sentries in a Warp Prism, landing them right here, and just force fielding the ramp, and just morphing in a bunch of Zealots and killing off everything that's in the main while you have 3 sentries just ready to force field the Zerg units, preventing them from moving up the ramp to try and defend their main. But we'll see what GetOutMyGame is going to do. It looks like he is chrono boosting his +1 ground weapons, and 2 more gateways are on the way. Okay, so no, three more gateways are on the way, as I expected. sentry is about to pop out. The It looks like that stalker did ward away this overlord. It unfortunately didn't get the kill, but looking at Rhett's side of the map, he has secured 3 bases really nicely. He is just droning up so hard. Lair is on the way. He has pretty good map control. You know, he is securing both watchtowers now, and he should feel pretty safe. You know, some overlords are spread around his main to spot any sort of Stargate play or any sort of warp prisms. It does look like GetOutMyGame has hit a nice little probe here. He does look like he is going to put down a proxy pylon. For Rhett has thrown down his Roach Horn as well as an Evo Chamber and a Macro Hatch. Really nice move. You know, once the Zerg gets to a 3-base economy, they really do need that 4th hatchery. And a lot of Zergs do opt to go for the Macro Hatch instead of going for a 4th base, just because it is less vulnerable. And I'm sorry, I seem to have missed that a Warp Prism has come out from the Protoss, and it looks like he is moving forward. A bunch of cells being warped in behind us. The Overlord spots it now, and a bunch of Lings are being cranked out by Rhett, but he has no units right now. This 3rd hatchery may go down as well as a lot of the drones, but Rhett does have really nice reaction timing. He does save all of the drones that were there, and hatchery is being focused down, and a bunch of Lings do pop out, and they do try to defend, but it does look like there are just too many zealots for these Zerglings to deal with, and a bunch of roaches just pop, and the hatchery does get targeted down. The drones are being pulled here to try and defend, but it does look like they are just gonna mine, but the 3rd hatchery goes down, and this is a big win for GetOutMyGame, and behind this he is making Immortals. He is chrono boosting them out together with sentries, so a sentry Immortal all-in follow-up behind this could be quite powerful. It does look like Rhett is powering out a bunch of roaches now with some upgrades, you know, +1 missile attacks, Glial Reconstitution, which is a roach speed, as well as an infestation pit coming out. You know, although Rhett lost his 3rd, his economy is still really nice. He is up to 66 drones, and Rhett did see that unit composition, so he should, you know, he should prepare for any sort of all-in with Immortals and Sentries. It does look like Rhett is securing his 4th base now. He has double expanded. You know, if you're behind, like, if your 3rd gets sniped like that, it is a nice move to double expand. That proxy pylon from GetOutMyGame is still here, so he could opt to warp in some guys from here and run them into the 3rd, or maybe even try to snipe this 4th. Because it does look like Rhett has not noticed that proxy pylon as of yet. A building hatchery really just doesn't have that much vision, so I don't think he even sees it, and it does look like GetOutMyGame is moving out onto the map. He has 2 Immortals. I would suggest he... Oh god, no, so he has a 3rd one here. So I wonder... Yeah, okay, so he does pull that Immortal. It does look like he was just putting it there to prevent any sort of run by. He does wall himself in now, and so it does look like he is pushing with +1 attack on his melee units. Sorry, just what am I talking about? Just +1 attack on all of his units, and it looks like he warps in 2 more photon cannons at his natural to try and prevent any sort of run into the natural. It does look like Rhett does try to get a 6 round. Some of the roaches get cut off really nice force fields in between the hatchery and this ramp. GetOutMyGame has been able to, you know, pick off a bunch of those roaches. It does look like his zealot count has suffered quite a bit because the roaches behind the force fields did pick them off, but it does look like this 4th base does go down. A sick force field does trap some of the roaches here. He should take them out pretty fast, and a bunch more zealots being warped in. You know, the really nice thing about this composition is you can force field half the Zerg army, separating it from the rest, and just have the zealots pin them against the force fields and rip them to shreds with together with the immortal damage. You know, immortals are just so good against roaches right now. And Liquid does have 2 fungals available to him, and sick fungal catching a clump of those Protoss units, but it does look like GetOutMyGame is trying to advance forward. Red does get another sick fungal. A lot of the shields have been eaten away from this Protoss army. It does look like he has run out of force fields, and the Zerg units can just close in on these Protoss units without much trouble at all. But it does look like these Immortals are doing a really nice job. They have 16 kills on one and 13 kills on the other, and but it does look like Rhett might be able to overwhelm this army of the Protoss if he does temporarily pull back, but a bunch of roaches have popped out. +2 attack is nearly done as well. And I feel like the Protoss has to pull back here, yet he's out of force fields, and without force fields you can't really deal with this amount of roaches. A sentry does get, 2 sentries do get warped in with some zealots, but with this amount of stalkers and only 1 immortal left, I don't think Get Out My Game can continue to on with this push. 16 link, 10 roaches, a queen, just constant production out of Ret, and it does look like one more immortal is being started back at home. Get Out My Game knows he is behind now. His economy is is not that great. It looks like he does turn on 1 more robotics facility and a robotics facility bay. No, sorry, robotics support bay. So it does look like he is going to go for some sort of all-in off 2 bays with the double Colossus production. +1 armor is also being started. At this point, the pros really can't afford to be going into Twilight Council as well as the robotics facility tech. So he is going to be stuck on 1-1 upgrades. He could opt to go for +1 shields as well, but we will see. But looking at Ret right now, he is in such a good position. He's resecuring his 4th. The supplies are double in Ret's favor. He does take out that proxy pylon. And I feel like we could see Ret getting a bit aggressive here. That changing did spot the army composition of Get Out My Game, and after an all-in like that, the Protoss isn't going to have too many units, and Ret's production is just so good right now. With this amount of infestors, if he can kind of hit before the Colossus pop out, he could do really well, and even with these 2 Colossus out on the field, if he gets a good surround, I guess it is kind of hard to get all units in at this choke, but if he takes out these rocks and does like a double-pronged attack to get a surround on this army, he could do pretty well for himself. The 2 Colossus are about to pop out. +1/+1 is on the way for Carapace as well as ground melee. The roaches do have +2 missile attacks, as well as these fungals are going to be so good. And there's also a sick fungal landing on the majority of the Protoss units. Nice force fields do try to prevent the roaches from getting through, but a bunch of roaches do get through here, and there's a hole here in the force field wall. It does look like the majority of the Protoss army has been melted away. Infested Terrans are being lobbed out. The 2 Colossus do pop out, but they're just too late to the party. And Get Out My Game, GG's out of this game. Really sick play by LiquidRet. His macro ability was just so good in that game. He just managed to get a really good 3 base economy up. That War Prism push, that initial War Prism push with that proxy pylon here did take out that 3rd hatchery, but Ret did have his macro hatch up in his main, and his production was just so good. All he needed to do was double expand. The 4th did get taken out with that Immortal Sentry all-in follow-up by Get Out My Game, but LiquidRet with his constant unit production off that 3 base economy managed to hold it off. And with this counterattack into the Protoss base, he did manage to take Get Out My Game out. So, it was a pretty good game, and I hope to see you guys next time.